Hi people. So I'm doing something here I don't usually do, which is making a video on the back end of a live stream. Um, I don't usually do this, but I thought that some of the issues that were raised in that live stream would actually make for a good video. Um, because I had a few questions about some of the issues I'm going to be talking about here. I also had, and anyone who was in that live stream will know what I'm talking about, I had an extensive experience there with my leading troll, my leading stalker. Um, so I'm going to kind of put this into two parts. Part of the video is going to be addressing some of the issues, just my views on them and how I approach those things. The other part is going, and I might actually start off with that part, is the behavior of this character and some of the issues he raised. Now, I want to be clear. I am not making this because I think he's important. He's one person. I have mostly support on my channel. Um, really. So I don't want to give this person more importance than they deserve. Already they've used about four pseudonyms. Stevie Walsh, Steve Walsh, and then he used an Arabic sounding name and something else. Uh, to that person, Stevie, if that's his real name, he knows who he is. I'll just say this. You can leave your comments here under a different name, that's fine, but I'm just going to remove them every time. So you're wasting your time. Or I may allow them on this one video as a one-off because I'm talking about you as a way to justify yourself. But this is the situation. This character has been trolling me, trolling my videos for some time now. And what he's done is he's taken a small number of videos I have on the issue of online dating now, and he's distorted them. I have thousands of videos, thousands, and I talk about a very wide range of subjects. I talk about all sorts of things. I talk about things in the news. Spoken a lot about the situation in the war in Ukraine, about human rights, about I've done film reviews. I've done a lot of different things. Um, and so what this character has done is he's homed in on these videos, and he thinks that's what all that I'm about. I'm not. And he's distorted them. And the first thing, let me just address why I made those videos about online dating. Why did I recount my experience? I recounted my experience because, particularly with the pandemic, a lot of people now use online dating. They go down that path because they're single, because they're looking for a partner and they feel that's the right way to go about it, or maybe it's just more convenient. It could be where they live, it could be that they don't have the confidence to go to bars. My own reason for doing so was because I think it's practical. On a dating site, you know that people there are looking for a relationship. Yeah, so I had two difficult experiences with my overall experiences of online dating, and I've spoken about those experiences. Now, was it a mistake to speak about them? Some people might say I'm revealing too much and I'm leaving myself open to scrutiny and attack. I didn't do it lightly. I didn't do it lightly because I knew there would be a chance that there would be people like this person would come along and distort what I said and attack me. And unfortunately, that did happen. I also got a lot of support. Um, my channel isn't viral. I don't get millions of views. So it's always contextual. It's always about what is a proportion of the feedback I get. In 10 years of doing this, literally about 80% of responses have been positive, and I know that from the ratio of thumbs up to thumbs down. The vast majority of comments are mature, they're disengaging, but you do sometimes have to put up with these strange people who fixate on a channel, and it's just very strange behavior, very strange. Because to me, it's a waste of time. I mean, if I didn't like someone and I didn't like the message that they were promoting, I might disagree with them once, and then I'd say, well, that's it. I'm not going to waste any more time with them. But for someone to fixate and to come back and come back, it's just so. Anyway, this character has said that I'm a misogynist. Now, Seemingly, his basis for this is the fact that I've complained that I've been on the receiving end of ghosting. In the first case, I should say, it was because the woman in question done a sudden U turn, and I mentioned how that was out of the blue because things were going very well. And that experience was difficult. Now, I've spoken to male friends and female friends, and they've agreed that seemed strange. I've told them what happened, and they agreed it seemed strange. She had her reasons, I'm sure, but it was difficult. The second experience, the person just abruptly left. No explanation, no rejection. And this person, this troll, is very, very ignorant about the subject of ghosting. And actually, this is a good opportunity to talk about it because he's not the only one, unfortunately. There are people out there who think that somehow ghosting is legitimate. Ghosting is cowardly and ghosting is selfish because it basically means you don't have to take responsibility. You can play with someone's feelings and you can just not take responsibility for the way you've left it. So instead of, say, agreeing that it's not going to work out or agreeing to try and work things out, you just vanish. Now, I don't unsay a single word I've said about ghosting. I maintain it's cowardly and it's selfish. And the thing about it is, there's men who ghost and there's women who ghost. In my case, it happened to be a woman. But men do this as well. And this is where Stevie is so ignorant because he seems to think it's just a domain of men. Um, i.e., men who can't get a girlfriend complain about this. But this is some of the most egregious victim blaming I can think of. Now, this is not to say I want to call myself a victim. I don't want to wallow in victimhood, but has been a difficult experience. When you get close to someone and you think that something's developing, and that person really, really leads you to believe that by their words, by their promises, and then they just disappear, it is basically emotional abuse. Now, Stevie despicably downplays this. Stevie despicably um, tries to imply that this is the fault of the person who's been ghosted. Anyone who's ever suffered from this, anyone who's ever been through ghosting, needs to explain to this guy what it involves because really he's thoroughly ignorant. He's not the only one. There's other people out there. Like I said, there was a senator in the Philippines who actually wanted to make this a criminal offense. Now, I wouldn't support that because I think it's difficult to police emotional issues. But he mentioned that it caused incredible emotional pain to people, and he's absolutely right. Now, when that happened, a lot of people ridiculed this and they came out with attitudes like Stevie has. I don't know why. Maybe this particular politician is controversial and he was just attracting more control. I don't know what it was. But the comments I was reading were so drenched in ignorance. Like, oh, you can't take no for an answer. But the thing about ghosting, it's got nothing to do with that. This is not a case of the woman or the man that said, no, sorry, it's not working out. Then the other person becomes, obsessive and they won't take no for an answer. I'm not a fool. Of course, if I know a woman's not interested, I'm going to leave it at that. And I'll be disappointed. But I always said that if she was to reject me outright, then I would say, well, that's a pity, but that's the way she feels about it. But she didn't. She didn't. Now, regarding those videos, like I say, the reason I made them is because I want to break stigmas. I want to get people to talk about issues that affect them. Now, with me, I've been very depressed over this, so I'm talking about my mental health issues. And you have to give a basis, you have to give context. You can't say, I mean, he was attacking me because I gave some details of her background, but I wasn't doing that to try and get a vendetta against her. I was doing it just to give context to the experience and just to say, well, actually, this person led me to believe that they were sincere. And it's strange that he attacks me, but he doesn't attack women who talk about their experiences with men. He doesn't attack women who, go into details about what they've been through. So why is it, not legitimate for a guy to talk about these things, but it's fine for women to talk about them? That's bizarre. I could understand the contention if I had named her and I'd say, oh, this is where she lives, and encourage my followers to bully her or something. That would be, really out of line. That would be obviously, it would actually be illegal. But I didn't do that. I gave some basic information about some of the things that she told me just to show that this is someone who suggested that she was sincere. Now, maybe I shouldn't have said it that way. Maybe I should have said, well, she gave me personal details about her life. Maybe I should have worded it that way rather than being a bit more specific. But the point is, you know, the details I gave, there was nothing there that could reasonably be used to track her down or anything like that, nor would I, because I'm not that sort of person. So it angered me that this guy was portraying me to be something that I'm not. Um, but if you're going to look down on people using dating sites, that is just it's pathetic because millions of people do. Nobody has a right to think that they're better than others. Oh, I've never used a dating site. Well, maybe you're happily married, or maybe you're happy with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, but it doesn't mean that you're better than other people. The circumstances that people just don't find. I'm a relatively confident guy. It's not like I freeze up around women. I've got female friends. I just, my own theory for it is I've just had bad luck. Really, I think that's what it is. I've just had a lot of bad luck. But even my previous difficult experience, what I mentioned at the beginning of that, I wasn't going into eHarmony thinking, oh, I'm bitter about this, I'm angry, and all women are liars. Not at all. I continued speaking to other women, and I actually developed some good situations there. I'm still talking to some of them, actually, as friends. I mean, we agreed that for various reasons it wasn't going to work out. But I think one of the worst things that we have today is people who judge others in terms of relationships when they're actually ignorant to the issues that are involved. So, these guys who think that they can judge other men because they don't have a girlfriend and they say, oh, well, there must have been something you done. If I was behaving in a very unhealthy way, if I was stalking a woman, if I was, really, really being obsessive, then that would be an indication of something. As for me still talking about this, well, you don't get over ghosting like overnight. And if you think that you can, you're just an idiot. This was someone who really gave promises to me. She really led me to believe that it was something serious. Now, I've accepted that she's probably gone forever. I've totally accepted that. I know it would be a waste of time trying to reach out to her. I know that. But this idea that, just get over things, that's the sort of attitude to mental health problems, by which I'm referring to depression, that is totally, totally unhelpful. And it's this callous lack of empathy these judgmental people have. It's disgusting actually, because they think that they're perfect. They think, oh well, everything's smooth for me. So I would say to a card like Stevie Walsh, can you hand on heart tell me and tell my subscribers that you have never had any relationship complications, that you have never had issues. I mean, people who say that they just, that they are relationship experts, that they've never had problems, they're either lying or they've been very lucky because pretty much everyone does in some capacity. Show me one couple that doesn't have an argument. Show me one couple that doesn't have some sort of complication. Obviously, it becomes unhealthy when it becomes abusive. And abuse can take different forms. It can be physical abuse or it can be emotional, manipulative abuse. It can take both forms. But any reasonable, fair person who looks at what I've spoken about would say, well, actually, no, I'm not what this guy's portraying me to be. So I'm disgusted that he has falsely accused me of these things. And I just question why. Is there some gap that he needs to fill in his life or what? I don't know what it is. I know he's going to come to this video. He's got a right to defend himself, but everything I've said here is the truth, absolute truth. Because all I said in those videos was recounted my experiences of online dating. That's all I'd done. I said that in the first case, the woman in question done a sudden U-turn. It hurt me because I really thought we were on the same direction. Of course, it hurt me. And I would say to someone like Stevie, do you expect people to be robots? You say man up and move on. How dare you? How dare you trivialize depression? It's one of the most despicable things to do, actually, because you're downplaying the effect that can have on someone. I'm not talking about a little bit of back and forth and a little bit of, oh well, we were flirting a little bit. These were in-depth, meaningful communications. Um, and in both cases, what happened happened. And so to blame me, it's just sort the situation. Look at YouTube. YouTube is full of videos about ghosting, and universally, pretty much universally, the experts, if we want to ascribe that term to them, will say this is the issue of the ghoster. It is not the fault of the person who's been ghosted. You know, very, very occasionally you might have this happening because the other person is possessive and abusive, and then the ghoster doesn't know any other way out, so they just leave without saying anything. But that's more the exception than the rule. What I'm talking about is what usually happens is maybe the person's felt overwhelmed, maybe they're that confident, whatever it is. I'll say this though, and I mean this. If other people feel those videos are unhealthy or wrong, like they disagree with the way I've went about things, if they think I shouldn't be talking about that online, and if there is a consensus, if I have a situation where women are saying, "Oh, I'm a woman and I don't think you should say this," and so on, I would be humble enough to say, "Okay, well, maybe it is a wrong approach," because I didn't make those videos lightly. Okay, I did think to myself, "Should I do this? Is this the right approach?" But most of the response has been reasonable, and it's been, yeah, well, that's what you've been through, and they've recognized it for what it is. Then you get Stevie, who is a faceless troll, who comes along, distorts my position, and he behaves in a very despicable and low way. Stevie, incidentally, thinks he's a great savior for women. He's often parroted feminism. My position on feminism, I've been quite clear about. I have criticised it, and I do not unsay a single word I've said, because despite what Stevie and others think, criticising feminism does not equate to being a misogynist. There's plenty of women who criticise feminism. Okay, I'm not against feminism as a principle, i.e., the belief in equality for women and girls. I'm absolutely for that. I am against the way that third wave feminism has gone. I think a lot of it is misandrist, and I think useful idiots like Stevie support misandry against men. You know, he's a complete clown when it comes to this sort of black and white duality. I mean, people like Stevie, this is the problem I have with some male feminists. They see things in black and white terms. They think women can never do wrong and men are always wrong. And they think, oh, well, I can say that because I'm a man. But actually, all they are doing is making life harder for male victims of emotional and sometimes physical abuse because they're saying it's illegitimate. They're saying women are never wrong. And I don't know whether it's because they've been put in a little bubble or what it is, but it's just very ignorant. Um, and I think we really, really have to challenge this idea that just because you question a movement or an ideology, you must be dead set against it. So just because I criticize feminism doesn't mean I'm some sort of militant men's rights activist. I'm quite critical of the way they've went about things, actually. Um, and I'm sick and tired of having to clarify my position by people like Stevie because they choose to distort it. But I guess I have to accept that, it doesn't matter what you say or do in this world, there's always going to be people out there who will want to try and tear you down and to distort your position. I think it's legitimate to criticize feminism. Former Justice Secretary Dominic Raab got in hot water for this because he said he didn't call himself a feminist because he didn't agree with some of the double standards. Now, I think that was a reasonable position to take, but the feminists were saying he's against equality. Um, Feminists need to stop being so militant and so intolerant to different viewpoints and actually accept that just because someone is criticizing some of the ideology does not mean that they're against everything that you're talking about. Um, I mean, I'm all for tackling abuse of women, absolutely. In fact, I've called for tougher sentences for violent domestic abusers. I think actually there should be tougher sentences. Um, I just think it is despicable the way that people distort others' positions to suit their own agenda. It's in this sense, it's just um, it's very disingenuous. But on the subject of MRAs, and I can't encompass all of this in one video, but I'll try and address some of it. We have seen this phenomenon in recent years of the incel community, right? And I think I made a video once about that, and to be honest, at the time I was still learning about it. I didn't know much about it. Um, you get different phenomena. You get a situation where people are involuntarily celibate, right? So they simply don't have sexual experience, and that might be from lack of opportunity, lack of confidence. It could be a range of things. That does not necessarily equate to misogyny. Where it becomes misogyny is when they gravitate to these sort of murky online groups, which sends out the message it's all the fault of women, that they don't have a love life. This is very dangerous because they're becoming radicalized and they're blaming women. And we do sometimes see this resulting in violence. It's happened a few times. There was the Toronto van attack a few years ago, which killed 10 people. There was the attack in Plymouth last year, 6 killed. There was the Isla Vista attack in the United States, where the mass shooter in that case cited his incel status and how he blamed women. So this is concerning. There is clearly a problem out there, and there is clearly young men gravitating to these groups. Now, let me be clear, everyone is responsible for their own actions. Everyone. And misogyny is misogyny. There is no excuse for those attitudes. But I do think that the way society talks about relationships, and societal attitudes to this doesn't entirely help, because young men who don't have sexual experience are ridiculed, they're laughed at. And this is often from other men. So this alpha male attitude, of this is why I don't entirely agree with the MRAs, because they won't acknowledge that this is part of the problem, or they don't talk enough about this. You have this alpha male kind of situation, if we want to call it that, where you have this dynamic of, let's say, a group of guys in a pub or in a changing rooms or whatever it might be, and they mock and they ridicule the so-called virgin in the group. So that guy might be going through profound loneliness, where he's lonely, he wants a girlfriend, and for whatever reason he isn't getting a girlfriend. Then you get other men who are mocking him. I think that is some of the most disgusting and callous bullying possible, because not only is that person dealing with the loneliness, then they're dealing with the ridicule on top of it. I think it's disgusting. Um, anybody, anybody who claims that they don't have relationship issues is a liar. Is a complete liar. So these guys who seemingly are real, they're a hot shot with all the women. You'll find that what they're going to do is they're going to hurt women, because they're going to be womanizers. They're going to be unfaithful to the wives or girlfriends. Um, I know for women who are going through this and they see maybe what looks like the really popular woman, likewise, she's going to hurt a lot of guys because she's not going to be faithful. I'm not saying this is true across the board, but more often than not happens. So this attitude of ridiculing um, people for being single or for being lonely, I think it is beyond despicable. I think it is loathsome. It's callous, it's cruel, it's despicable, and I think that needs to be tackled. So that attitude may well be driving young men to these groups, because they think, okay, well, the world's laughing at me, but these guys empathize, they won't laugh at me. We have to seriously look at that. Like any sort of radicalization, you get young men who join Islamist groups, you get young men who join far right groups. And it is, in most cases, we have to be honest, it is mostly young men. Sometimes you get young women who are radicalized, Shamina Begum, for example. But this is mainly young men. With environmental extremism, it tends to work both ways. And I've noticed young people in general, often getting brainwashed by the likes of Insulate Britain and Just Stop Oil. And I say radicalized because they're engaging in criminal acts and they're doing some very reckless things. But what I would say to any young guy who's going through this is, don't blame women, don't blame girls. You know, uh, they have a right to reject you if they feel that that's not for them. This doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean you're not attractive. It just means you didn't have luck on this occasion. Okay. Um, but for goodness sake, don't go to those forums because they are that's toxic. It's going to lead you down a dark path. If you have friends that are laughing at you, they're not friends. Discard them. Discard them because those guys are not friends. What I would say is, look at me, right? I have friends, but they're people who are reasonable. They're people who don't laugh at me. I've had some girlfriends in my life, but I haven't had resounding success over the years. I'm going to be upfront about that. It was quite late for me before I had my first girlfriend, but this is exactly what I'm talking about. There will be people out there who will say, "Oh, you must be a loser." Not at all. I just had bad luck. I didn't have the circumstances, and yeah, there were some confidence issues, things that have greatly developed now. What you need to remember is women are normal. They're not any different from men. So talking to a woman doesn't, you might think it's intimidating. Oh, she's beautiful. I'm out of her league. But just treat her like a human being and you'll find that it's more often than not, even if you don't, maybe she'll reject you, but you might find it's not as bad as it seems. If she's rude, that's on her. That is on her. And you've done nothing wrong. You need to consider she's just got a bad personality. But you also have to remember women are different. And this is the irony about, male feminists. They think all women are the same. They actually hold a sexist view because they think all women are the same. They think all women are innocent. So that to me is a very patronizing and short-sighted attitude. Um, but I am concerned that there are young guys out there who are angry and bitter and alone, and they're going to gravitate to these groups because they don't have any other platform. Now, I am not justifying their attitudes, and ultimately, if they are adult men, they are responsible for their own behaviour, and if they commit a violent criminal act, they should serve a long prison sentence for it. But society's attitude to this is not entirely helpful because it's kind of like two extremes. On one hand, you have militant feminists who will say that men are the problem. We live in this overbearing patriarchy and men are fundamentally sexist and they talk about everyday sexism and they promote double standards and all the rest of it. They're going to do what they're going to do. But then you have the alpha male types who ostensibly are against the feminists, but they're just as bad because they also put out this toxic attitude to young men. Recently, there was talk of Andrew Tate. I didn't know much about him, so I decided to look him up. Some of the things he said is somewhat true. He spoke about how throughout history, there's always been patriarchal societies that have had to defend that society. He's not wrong about that. However, he's a prime example of a guy who looks down on other men, who, says, "Oh, if you don't want to be a loser, be like me." He's full of himself. He doesn't seem to have any sense of introspection. And he's precisely the sort of guy that, would be cracking jokes with his mates about, "Oh, let's laugh at the Virgin." Um, that's just as toxic, actually, as misandry within feminism, because that is this attitude of you have to be a certain way, and it's, in order to prove your manhood. It's pathetic. If we want to get into this thing about prove you're a man, I would say stand up for your conviction. I would say it's do what I'm trying to do here. Stand up for your conviction. Um, don't be intimidated because you get people trying to tear you down. That's all you can really do. I'm going to wrap this up, but I felt it was an important video to make to lay my cards on the table, say this is what I'm about. So let's break this down. I made those videos simply because there are a lot of people that use online dating sites. I'm simply saying this was my experience, and if you're thinking about getting into online dating, just be aware this could happen. If I get feedback on those videos of people saying, that's not the right way to go about things, maybe I'll concede that. I'll take the videos down. If you get, yeah, if that happens, that will be the approach I'll take. Feminism. I've been very clear about this. I am not against feminism as a principle, as an ideology, even as a movement. I am against the sexism, the double standards, and the misandry of some third wave feminism. For example, the fact they think that women can never ever be wrong, no matter what the situation. I think we saw from the Depp Heard trial that was a turning point because it showed that actually women are capable of abuse. Even then, you had feminists, you know, defending her despite the evidence, the clear evidence of her abuse. Pathetic. Um, and thirdly, this whole thing about young men gravitating to these groups, I think it is concerning. But I think the answer to it is definitely they need to be de radicalized. They need to be told that women are not the problem. Um, Maybe there are some things you need to change in your approach. Maybe you do have an entitled mindset. The irony is, everything I'm talking about here, this guy, Stevie Walsh, is throwing at me falsely. I do not have an entitled mindset. I'm not a misogynist. I don't stalk anyone. I don't dox anyone. So all of those are false claims that he is so shamefully thrown at me. And I know what he's going to do. He's going to come out with a little fake name. I might let him have a say on this one, justify himself. But he's been lying. I gave him a chance. He kept breaking his chances, so I've had no choice but to block him, creating new names. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. I've been speaking for long enough. Thanks for watching, but I think this was most important because, when you put your face out there, there is a chance that people will distort. Unfortunately, there is a chance that people will take things out of context, will distort what your position is, and it's very, very dishonest because they're trying to tear you down. Maybe they're trying to, it's like they're projecting some of their own problems and they're angry and they want to take it out on a guy whose only crime is to try and stand up for his conviction. That's all I have ever done. I abhor misogyny. I would say that I love women. That's a little bit of a sweeping statement because people would say, well, I don't love every woman. I treat women equally. I'm a straight guy. I'm attracted to women. But some women that I don't particularly care for in terms of their attitude. And I do not like women who play emotional games with guys. I think that's low. I think it's very manipulative. And yeah, men do it as well. I'm not saying otherwise. I'm just saying, as a guy who's used dating sites, obviously I just see women. I'm not seeing the way men behave. And I'm sure there are men who waste others' time and so on. But you just need to be assertive about these things. But this notion that if someone isn't having success with online dating, they must be a misogynist. It's such a distortion because it ignores the fact. It ignores the fact you get people out there who are insincere. It ignores the fact that you get people who don't care about wasting others' time. And ultimately, it comes down to victim blaming. So, yeah, I've been a victim of ghosting, but I'm not wallowing in victimhood. I'm simply saying that is what happened. Right. I hope this video was useful. And Stevie, I know you're going to turn up under a false name. That's your right. But I'll keep blocking you every time you do, so you're wasting your time.